Thank you very much. Let's go to Arizona, where Mr. Grijalva is recognized for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As a former school board member that spent 12 years on a school board with Tucson Unified and back home, the importance of public schools, and in particular, the value of libraries and the value of a diverse opportunity for all students to be able to access information and to be able to learn. And then that's the environment and the values that I learned being a school board member. They represent the values of this country. And I think access is the most important thing. And the other important thing is we're protecting protecting the children that attend those schools and treating those children with the importance that they deserve, and the teachers. And one of the things that I see is that erosion of that public institution. And part of it is trying to control what people read and don't read. And one of the things I was going to ask you, Dr. Friedman, and I think that is a huge threat to public education, part of this whole dismantling agenda that goes around about our public schools. I wanted to ask you a question, Dr. Friedman, and thank you for your testimony. I represented that school district, and much of the traditional, and because it was predominantly of color, the community that I represent now, and the school district was very significantly of color, and traditional academic canons did not reach those students. The curriculum didn't reflect them, the books didn't reflect them, and the subjects and characters didn't look like the students that were going to those schools. Can you just expand briefly upon the potential impacts of banning books? You know, in Florida, Roberto Clemente, I mean, he's a god, and that was put aside for a while. Certain poetry. Our superintendent of public education in Arizona, Tom Horn, feels that we shouldn't talk about race at all because it offends some. And that way, we don't have to talk about history because it's part of the story. And so my question is, tell them how it impacts students and communities.
Our schools are becoming more diverse, and research shows that young people are going to be more engaged in learning in schools when their libraries and the books that they have ready access to reflect their identities, reflect their families, reflect a range of their life experiences, deal with the complexities of the lives that they're living. And the purpose of a library is, in fact, to be that kind of wellspring of information. That's what school librarians are charged with doing. They're not charged with exercising a kind of censorious mindset about how different people in the community might feel about one content or other. They're charged with producing a robust, diverse collection. And that's what's critical.
Yeah, and I think, and I asked that question because the efforts, at least in my home state and led by the superintendent then and now again superintendent, has to do more with the discussion today is about protecting children, the title, from explicit sexual content. But content is also the issue. And could you talk about examples where banning has to do with the content about what you disagree with, an idea, a point of view, versus trying to twist ourselves into a pretzel to try to fit the PICO decision in terms of a definition of banning?
I think it's just quite clear, and you really cannot separate the facts of what's been going on around the country the past years in terms of how many stories there are of people who are trying to remove books and being successful at removing books that are about black stories by black authors about LGBTQ lives. You cannot pretend that is not happening. There are stories in the news. There was a story just this week in Iowa about hundreds of books being removed under one of these laws. And that's been the theme for the past 2 years.
Yield back, Mr. Chairman.